You know those ordinary Tuesdays, the ones where nothing special happens, just laundry, maybe vacuuming behind the couch. Yeah, that was my day. Completely normal. Until I reached my hand into that dusty corner behind the bookshelf, not even looking, just trying to grab a crumpled receipt that blew back there. My fingers brushed something hard and smooth. Plastic, definitely not a receipt. I pulled it out, confused. It was a cheap, basic flip phone, a burner phone, and it wasn't mine. My heart just stopped right there, covered in dust bunnies, holding this cold little secret. My husband, Mark, the guy who jokes about forgetting his real phone password half the time, had this hidden. My mind raced. Why work thing, some weird paranoid phase he never mentioned. But the pit in my stomach told me it wasn't anything that simple. It felt heavy, wrong. I just stood there, frozen, this stupid little phone burning my palm. I couldn't breathe. The silence in the house was suddenly deafening. All those little things, the late work dinners, the sudden password changes on his laptop, how distant he'd seemed lately, crashed over me like ice water. Was this the missing piece? This cheap, hidden thing? My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. I stared at it, this tiny bomb disguised as tech. Part of me screamed to throw it back, pretend I never saw it. But the bigger part, the part that felt sick and betrayed, needed to know, had to know. Taking a shaky breath, I flipped it open. The screen was blank, waiting charged. My thumb hovered over the power button. Just one press, and my whole life, everything I thought, was safe and real with Mark. It could all shatter right here in my dusty living room. Could I handle what was on it? Did I even have a choice now? I pressed the button. The screen flickered to life and then a notification popped up, just one, lighting up the screen with a name I didn't recognize and a message. Preview that turned my blood cold. The name on the screen was just a single letter A, and that message: preview, can't wait for tonight. Last time was my vision blurred. The cheap plastic casing of the phone felt like it was searing my skin. Last time, what last time? With who? My mind spun, grasping for anything solid. Mark, my Mark, the man who brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning, who cried happy tears holding our daughter for the first time. Was this his secret? It felt impossible, like a nightmare I'd suddenly woken up inside. I sank onto the couch, the phone clutched in my shaking hand like evidence from a crime scene. That's what this felt like. A violation, my safe world cracking apart right under my feet. Who was a colleague, someone from the gym, someone I knew. The thought made me physically sick. How long had this been going on? Months, years. Suddenly, all those little moments I'd brushed off flooded back, sharp and accusing. The overtime, that seemed to happen more often. The way he'd suddenly angle his phone screen away when I walked by, laughing it off as just work stuff. The unexplained charge on our credit card for a fancy restaurant downtown, a place we hadn't been to in ages. He'd said it was a client dinner. Had I been so stupid, so trusting? Trust, that word felt like ash in my mouth now. It was the foundation of everything with Mark. We built this life, the house, our daughter Lily, the routines, the inside jokes on trust, or so I thought. Now, holding this stupid, hidden phone, it felt like every memory, every tender moment, was being rewritten. Was any of it real? Was he real? The man I kissed goodbye this morning, was he already thinking about seeing her tonight? The phone felt alive in my hand, pulsing with secrets. One press, a swipe, and I could open it. See the messages. See the photos. Maybe find out who I really was. But knowing felt terrifying. What if it was worse than I imagined? What if it shattered me completely? Yet, not knowing was its own torture, a slow poison spreading through every thought. This little device held the truth about my husband's double life. My stomach churned. Could I look? Did I have the strength to see the proof of his betrayal, staring back at me? The silence of the house pressed in, heavy and suffocating. Outside, the world went on like normal. Inside, holding that burner phone, mine was ending. My finger hovered over the message notification. Just one tap and the lies would spill out, but so would the pain. Unbearable, undeniable pain. I took a ragged breath. The truth was right there. Did I dare let it in? My finger trembled just above the glowing screen. One tap. That's all it would take to rip the bandage off, to see the wound festering beneath the surface of my marriage. The name pulsed like a malevolent star. Was it Amy from his office? Anna, that overly friendly neighbor? Someone completely unknown? The anonymity made it worse, letting my imagination paint 1,000 terrifying pictures. Who was this ghost, living inside my husband's hidden life? I didn't tap, not yet. Instead, a different kind of panic surged. Practical, terrifying panic. Lily, our sweet, oblivious 5-year-old, would be home from kindergarten in less than an hour. The thought of her innocent face, her chatter about finger painting, crashing into this poisonous reality made bile rise in my throat. How could I act normal? How could I make her dinner, read her stories, while this bomb sat heavy in my pocket? Mark, would he be home for dinner, acting like everything was fine, like he hadn't planned to see her tonight? The sheer hypocrisy, the double life, felt suffocating. I needed air, space to think, but the walls felt like they were closing in, driven by a frantic, almost robotic energy. I shoved the burner phone deep into my own purse, the last place Mark would look. Then, I grabbed his regular phone, the one he left charging on the kitchen counter. My hands were slick with sweat. I typed in his usual passcode, the one he used for everything, or so I thought. Incorrect password. My breath hitched. He'd changed it recently. The betrayal dug deeper. Scrolling quickly through the visible notifications, work emails, sports scores, a text from his mom about Sunday dinner. Nothing suspicious. Of course not. The real poison was in the cheap flip phone burning a hole in my bag. He was careful, calculated. I opened his photo gallery, scrolling back weeks. Pictures of Lily at the park, us at a barbecue last month, screenshots of memes. Then I froze. A selfie Mark took at his desk last week, grinning, but in the blurred background, reflected in his computer monitor. Was that a woman leaning over him? Her face was obscured, just a cascade of dark hair and the edge of a red blouse. Was it her? Was it a? Or was I seeing phantoms? Shadows where maybe none existed. Paranoia warred with the cold, hard proof in my purse. The doubt was almost worse. The knowing almost stopped. The garage door rumbled open. My heart leapt into my throat, pounding like a drum. Mark was home early. Panic seized me. I fumbled his phone back onto the charger, wiping my sweaty palms on my jeans just as the door connecting the garage to the kitchen swung open. He walked in, whistling, dropping his keys on the counter. "Hey babe," he said, his voice warm, normal. He leaned in for a kiss. I forced my lips into something resembling a smile, turning my head slightly so his kiss landed on my cheek. The scent of his familiar cologne, the one I'd picked out for him last Christmas, suddenly felt cloying. Fake. Was it the same scent I smelled? "Hey," I managed, my voice sounding strange and thin to my own ears. "You're home early." My eyes searched his face, looking for guilt, for a flicker of the secret he carried. But he just looked tired, maybe a little stressed from work. Perfectly normal, perfectly deceptive. "Yeah, cleared my desk for once," he said, heading towards the fridge. "Thought I'd surprise you guys. Where's my little monster?" He pulled out a soda, cracking it open. He seemed so relaxed, so utterly unaware that his hidden world was now clutched tightly in my fist, hidden mere feet away. The casualness of it all, the sheer audacity of his normal act while planning to meet his lover tonight, ignited a cold fury beneath my fear. He kissed my cheek again, his lips lingering for a fraction of a second too long. Was it affection, or was it the guilt of a man about to walk out the door to betray me? The question screamed in my head. Who is it, and what happens tonight? The burner phone felt like a live grenade in my bag, ticking down the minutes until my world truly exploded. The sound of Lily's excited chatter as Mark scooped her up filled the kitchen, a jarring contrast to the chaos screaming inside my head. He swung her around, her laughter bouncing off walls that suddenly felt like they were made of glass, fragile, ready to shatter. I busied myself with dinner prep, my movements stiff and robotic. Every clatter of a pan, every scrape of a knife felt unnaturally loud. The burner phone in my purse, tucked beside the fridge, pulsed like a dark heartbeat. "Tonight," he's seeing her tonight. "So, how was your day, babe?" Mark asked, setting Lily down to start her homework. He leaned against the counter, sipping his soda, watching me. Was it concern or surveillance? Checking to see if I seemed suspicious. His gaze felt heavy, probing. "Oh, you know," I managed, keeping my eyes fixed on the vegetables I was chopping. "Usual. Cleaning." I forced a lightness I didn't feel into my voice. "Found some interesting dust bunnies behind the bookshelf." I chanced a glance at him. His expression didn't flicker. No guilt, no recognition. Just a casual smile. "Always finding treasures," he chuckled, pushing off the counter. He ruffled Lily's hair. "Gotta jump in the shower before dinner. Big project wrap-up call with Joe tonight. Remember, might run a bit late." Joe. The name landed like a physical blow. Joe, his reliable work buddy, the perfect alibi. Was he meeting her under the guise of meeting Joe? The casual lie delivered so smoothly ignited a fresh wave of nausea. The burner phone, the message, "Can't wait for tonight, .. It wasn't a client dinner, it was a date. With her daughter. As the shower started running upstairs, the dam inside me threatened to burst. Lily, oblivious, hummed while coloring. I pulled out my own phone, my hands trembling violently. "Joe." I found Joe's number in my contacts. My thumb hovered over the call button. Should I call him? Casually ask if he was meeting Mark. But what if Mark was meeting Joe? What if I tipped Joe off? What if Joe was covering for him? The paranoia was a living thing, twisting my thoughts instead. I opened my banking app, scrolling frantically through recent transactions. That unexplained charge for the Lantern, the fancy downtown restaurant from weeks ago. Then I saw it. Another charge, just last week. The Lantern again, for two. Paid with our joint credit card. The receipt he'd claimed was a client dinner was actually their dinner. The proof was right there, in black and white, alongside grocery bills and Lily's ballet fees. He wasn't just lying, he was funding his affair with our money. Betrayal deepened, turning financial, intimate. The shower stopped. Panic surged. I snapped my phone off, shoving it away just as Mark's footsteps sounded on the stairs. He walked back into the kitchen, hair damp, smelling of soap and that same no-sickening cologne. He headed straight for his real phone on the charger, picking it up, swiping. My breath caught. Was he checking for messages from her, confirming their plans, or deleting evidence? He glanced at me, smiling. Smells great. He sounded perfectly normal, perfectly deceptive. He tapped on his phone screen, then slid it into his pocket. Joe just texted, meeting at 7:30. Be too late. He leaned in, kissed the top of my head. Save me some. Every fiber of my being screamed, liar. The hidden phone burned in my purse. The restaurant charges glowed on my mental screen. The reflection in the computer monitor photo haunted me. And now, he was about to walk out the door, straight to her, using Joe as a shield. He grabbed his keys. See you later, Lil's monster, he called out, heading for the garage door. This was it, the moment he was leaving, to meet her, to betray us again. Mark, my voice came out sharper than I intended. He paused, hand on the doorknob, turning back, eyebrows raised in mild inquiry. All my fear, my rage, my desperate need to know who and why collided. The words stuck in my throat, thick and dangerous. Do I scream? Do I throw the burner phone at his feet? Do I ask him point blank about A and the lantern? Do I break down in front of Lily? He stood there waiting, his expression open, innocent, the perfect husband, the perfect liar. The garage light cast a long shadow behind him, stretching towards me like a dark path. One word, one accusation, and everything. Lily's innocence, the fragile remains of our life, the terrifying unknown of her would explode into the open. My mouth opened, the air crackled. The word hung heavy in the air between us. Mark, his name felt like broken glass on my tongue. He stopped, hand still on the doorknob, his expression shifting from casual to wary confusion. Yeah. Everything, okay. He took half a step back into the kitchen, his eyes searching my face. Lily looked up from her coloring, sensing the sudden shift. My mind raced, a frantic slideshow of the burner phone, the restaurant charges, the blurred reflection, the accusation. Who is it? Why are you lying? Burned in my chest. But Lily's wide, curious eyes anchored me. I couldn't do this here, not now, not in front of her. The words dissolved into ash. Just drive safe, I choked out, forcing another brittle smile. Don't work too late. The lie tasted bitter. Relief, or maybe just annoyance, flickered across his face. Always do. See you later, sweetheart. He gave Lily a quick wave and vanished into the garage. The door clicked shut behind him. The rumble of his car engine starting felt like a physical vibration through the floor, a countdown to his betrayal. Silence crashed back, thick and suffocating. Lily went back to her drawing, humming softly. I sagged against the counter, trembling. He was gone. To her, the burner phone felt like a live coal in my purse. I needed to see the rest. I needed proof that wasn't just a name and a preview. Proof I could hold on to when the numbness wore off and the rage came. I pulled the cheap flip phone out, its plastic casing, cold and alien. My thumb hovered over the message notification again. Tap. The message thread opened. My stomach clenched. Above the preview were dozens of messages. I scrolled up, my heart pounding against my ribs. Flirty texts, plans to meet, mentions of hotels I didn't recognize. My vision blurred, tears threatening, but I blinked them back fiercely. Proof. I need proof. Then I saw it. A date last Thursday. The night market claimed an urgent overnight team build. Retrieve a photo loaded beneath the date. It was a selfie. Mark, grinning arm around a woman whose face was turned slightly away, her dark hair obscuring most of her features. But she was wearing a distinctive necklace, a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. My breath hitched. I knew that necklace. I'd seen it countless times. On my sister, Clara. The room tilted. Clara, my own sister, the one who'd hugged me tightly just last weekend, complaining about her dating life. The one Mark always joked was like a second little sister to him. Ice flooded my veins, colder than any betrayal I'd imagined. This wasn't just an affair. This was a nuclear bomb dropped on my entire family. The deception wasn't just Mark's. It involved someone I loved, someone I trusted implicitly. The lies were deeper, more sickening than I could have ever fathomed. Before I could process the horror, before I could even fully grasp the image of my husband and my sister together, the burner phone rang in my hand, a shrill, unfamiliar trill. That shattered the silence. Lily jumped. Mummy, what's that sound? Panic seized me, raw and primal. The screen lit up. Incoming call. My blood turned to ice. Was calling now to this phone. The phone hidden behind the bookshelf. The phone I now held. Had Mark forgotten it? Was she checking in? Did she somehow know I had it? The cheap ringtone blared impossibly, loud in the quiet kitchen. Lily stared at me, confused. Mummy, aren't you going to answer it? I stared at the pulsing screen. Calling me. The name that now meant my sister. The woman who'd shattered my world alongside my husband. The phone vibrated violently in my shaking hand, demanding an answer. Answer it, and hear her voice confirm the unspeakable. Ignore it, and let the terrifying unknown hang in the air. The ringtone drilled into my skull, each shrill note a hammer blow on my fragile reality. The proof was staring me in the face, and now, it was calling. The phone kept screaming in my hand that Clara, my sister. The ringtone felt like shards of glass scraping my nerves. Lily's confused eyes locked onto mine. Mummy, adrenaline, cold and sharp, cut through the paralysis. Answer it, the word screamed. In my head, face it. With fingers numb with terror, I swiped to answer and raised the phone to my ear. My voice came out a ragged whisper. Hello. Every muscle in my body was coiled tight, bracing for Clara's voice, for confirmation of the ultimate betrayal. Silence stretched for a heartbeat. Then, a voice but not Clara's. It was a man's voice, low, unfamiliar, and laced with a chilling calm. Is Mark there? The question hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't her. It wasn't Clara. The relief was instant, dizzying, then immediately swallowed by a deeper, colder terror. Who was this? The crescent moon necklace. Clara owned one. But maybe it wasn't her in the picture. The doubt roared back, louder than before. Who is this? I managed, my voice trembling violently. Lily tugged at my sleeve, sensing my fear. The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. Tell Mark his payment is late. Again, he knows the consequences. The line clicked, dead. Silence. Thick, heavy silence, broken only by the frantic pounding of my own heart. Payment, consequences. This wasn't an affair. This was something else. Something darker. The burner phone, the secrecy, the unexplained. Charges. It wasn't funding dates. It was paying off this man. The photo. Mark with the woman wearing Clara's necklace. Was it Clara or had someone else worn it? Was Mark involved in something dangerous, illegal? My mind spun, the ground shifting, beneath me again. The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was potentially criminal. The stakes weren't just my marriage, it was our safety. Lily's safety. I didn't wait. The fear for Lily overrode everything. I grabbed my own phone, my hand shaking so badly I could barely dial. I called Mark's real phone. It rang and rang. Pick up, pick up, pick up. Finally, he answered, sounding slightly breathless, background noise suggesting he was driving. Hey, everything okay? I just left. Mark, I interrupted, my voice raw with panic. Someone just called the burner phone. Dead silence on the other end. I could practically hear the blood draining from his face. What he stammered, the casual facade crumbling instantly. What did they say? They asked for you, I whispered, tears finally spilling over. They said your payment was late. They said you know the consequences. Lily buried her face in my leg, whimpering. Mark, what is going on? Who is that woman in the photo? Who is or what have you done? The silence stretched, filled only by the static hum of the line and my own ragged breathing when he finally spoke. His voice was thick, choked with a fear I'd never heard before. I can't explain over the phone. I'm turning around. I'm coming home right now. Just please, don't do anything. Don't call anyone. Wait for me. He hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen, the cheap burner phone still clutched in one hand, my own phone in the other, Lily clinging to me. The image of him with the woman, Clara or not, warred with the chilling threat from the stranger. Affairs felt like a horrifying storm. I could maybe weather, but this felt like standing on the edge of a cliff in the dark, not knowing what lurked below or when the ground would give way. He was coming home, to explain, but the fear in his voice, it wasn't guilt over cheating, it was raw, primal terror. Whatever he'd gotten involved in, whatever I truly represented, it was far worse, far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. The explosion wasn't just my life shattering, it felt like standing in the blast radius of something much bigger, much darker, and I had no idea if any of us would survive the fallout. I held Lily tighter, listening for the sound of his car in the driveway, dreading the truth he was bringing back with him. The wait for Mark felt like an eternity, each tick of the clock echoing in the silent, tense kitchen. Lily picking up on my fear stayed glued to my side, her small hand clutching mine. When his car finally screeched into the driveway, the sound sent a fresh jolt of adrenaline through me. He burst through the door, face pale, eyes wide with panic. He looked at me, then at the burner phone still in my hand, and crumpled. It's not an affair, he blurted out before I could speak, his voice cracking. Relief warred instantly with deeper dread. The woman ... the photo, it was just someone I met through them. She wore Clara's necklace by coincidence, I swear. Clara doesn't know anything about this. Please believe that. He sank onto a kitchen chair, head in his hands. It's gambling, Sarah. Bad debts, really bad. The pieces clicked sickeningly into place. The unexplained cash withdrawals. The expensive restaurant charges suddenly made sense. Not romance, but reckless spending fueled by desperation. The burner phone, his lifeline to the loan sharks, the ones calling themselves A. The secrecy wasn't about another woman. It was about hiding a dangerous addiction and the terrifying people funding it. The consequences the caller mentioned weren't empty threats. The betrayal was still massive, a canyon of broken trust. He'd lied for months. risked our financial security, our home, and worst of all, unknowingly put Lily and me in the crosshairs of dangerous people. The intimacy of the photo, a desperate attempt to seem connected, maybe to buy more time. It was sordid, pathetic, and terrifying. Mark talked in a choked rush, the escalating losses, the impossible interest, the paralyzing fear that kept him silent. He showed me bank statements hidden in his office, the horrifying depth of the debt he promised. Through tears he was done, that he'd get help, that he'd face the shocks, with lawyers, with police if needed, to protect us. The immediate danger shifted. It wasn't infidelity. It was survival. We spent that night making hard, terrifying plans, contacting a debt counselor, securing our accounts, filing a police report about the threats. The shock gave way to a bone-deep exhaustion and a simmering anger I knew would take years to process. The burner phone is now evidence, the loan sharks. We're working with authorities. It's a long, uncertain road, the trust shattered. Rebuilding it feels like climbing a mountain blindfolded. Therapy starts next week. For him, for me, eventually, maybe together. We're living day by day, the shadow of his secrets and the fear of us still lingering but slowly receding. I look at Lily, finally asleep, clutching her favorite stuffed toy. Her drawing book lies open on the table. She'd drawn our family. Her, me, Mark, but the picture of Mark is slightly torn, then carefully taped back together. Kids know, they always sense the cracks. The explosion didn't just shatter my illusions, it fractured our entire world. Healing starts now, one painful, honest step at a time. With the echoes of that cheap flip phone's ring, a constant reminder of the cost of secrets and the fragile strength it takes to face the truth. The life I knew is gone. What comes next is built on the ashes of his lies, brick by painful brick.